Greetings, friends. It is very shocking for me, the fact of how the papers and society make us no longer see the magic of this world. How people go to majestic natural places and get not surprised by the mere fact of their great existence. All that is made for us. The fact is that we don't even wonder where we stand. We don't know how to question the Jesuit Masonic science that forces us to accept ridiculous things as undeniable truths. The schools and universities that mold us and intermingle the original truth with the enslaving lie, removing all sublime essence from the creation elements and making it look as something common for the eyes of the average person. No one already perceives the splendor of this wonderful world that was given to us to balance, to thrive among all creatures. Today, in this new video, we will reveal impressive fundamentalist truths. Truths about alchemy and the primal magical processes of this world. Ancient secrets that you have never asked yourself and that you have been indoctrinated for not to see it. To see it as something normal. In past videos we have already analyzed the hidden origin of water and their incredible universal alchemical bond. Now in this video we will see another monstrously abundant alchemical element. One on which we'll live in some of its variants. An element that we believe simple and rudimentary, but that carries mysteries beyond modern human understanding. A secret that goes back to the very origins of this world, and that no other channel has revealed. Tell me, what are the rocks? What are all the stones? Which is the reason of their existence? What is the land we walk on? I invite you to go to any field or terrain. Find a stone. How did that rock get there? Why are there more giant stones below? Why are they clearly stacked and layered? What are the largest mountains and rocks? Why do they always appear broken and scattered around the world in different sizes, as if an explosion had caused it? What force moved, shaped, and fragmented them into such capricious positions? I could go on throwing more questions to show that we really don't know anything about what rocks really are, and why they are like this today. But let's analyze. Look at this image of a rock face, and compare the similarities. Official science tells us that rocky mountains are the product of the collisions of the tectonic layers millions of years ago, which caused the rock tops to rise almost 9 kilometers high. Geology tells us that Everest currently rises an average of 4 millimeters a year. That is, that it grows. Its formation, we are told, began about 10 or 16 million years ago, when the summit of the future Everest still lay below sea level, and the violent collision of the Indian subcontinent, separated from Africa with the Asian continent, marked the beginning of the first elevation of the mountain range. According to this interpretation, related to the theory of the drifting continents, which is a hypothesis that has not been accepted by all scientists, and that continues to be debated until today, it took at least 5 million years for Everest to emerge from the waters, and was pushed, during the ages that followed, more than 7,000 meters high. This movement was a violent collision in which two large masses of land collided with such force that this mountain emerged from the waters and formed what is called the Alpine mountain range. The mountain ranges, as they tell us, arose from this collision of the edges of the plates. Watch the name, plates. It is here where the greatest seismic activity happens, since it is where the interaction between these plates occurs. When an oceanic plate, denser, collides with a continental one, less dense, the oceanic plate is pushed underneath, forming a subduction zone. When two continental plates collide, extensive ridges form, creating an abduction edge. The Himalayan chain is the result of the collision between the Indo-Australian plate and the Eurasian plate. When two oceanic plates collide, the result is an island, for example, Japan. All of this is fine. It sounds very logical, don't you think? However, the main question has not yet been clarified. Why does it grow and accommodate? What force causes its adjustment and displaces the lava underneath, moving the entire continent with it? Let us remember the magnetism and the point of convergence of this world. Let us remember how everything is in a cycle of perfect balance and stability. Recall the evidence that seems to point to the existence of giant trees in the remote past. Could we think that maybe all the rock in this world was once wood? Giant remains and fragments of that trees. All the rocks in the world can be classified into three large groups: igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. We are going to start by describing sedimentary rocks. Its formation is due to the transport and deposition of materials due to the action of wind, water such as rivers, lakes and seas, that have been deposited over time. These materials are joined by filtered merging alchemical processes to form a rock after a long time of deposition. For this reason, sedimentary rocks are composed of many materials, both organic and stony, being mostly not too hard. Sedimentary rocks are divided into detrital and non-detrital. Detrital sedimentary rocks are those that are formed from the sedimentation of fragments of other rocks previously transported. Depending on the size of the fragments, they are identified in one way or another. If the fragments that make up the rock are looser, they are called gravel, and finer still, they are called silts or clays. All these are different names, all made by men simply to refer to the same element, to a state of said matter. However, we do not know what this matter called rock is. The invention of standardized universal names and symbols is called semiotics. All the names of things are a social construct to refer to things, seeking to maintain their greatness, but today, by ignoring the etymology of the language and the ancient history, people become ignorant of its greatness. They make people no longer appreciate the wonderful. Let us realize that the world where we live is moving, as if it were a living creature itself. Earthquakes and the reason for their existence are the product of already standardized theories. In reality, the reason why they happen is unverifiable. It is theorized that they are due to that collisions between the plates. Molten and semi-molten rock layers that move and displace, or grow, for reasons not proven. Mountains also grow. lava moves in flows and displays continents with such force, as if it were created somewhere with a great power. Let us remember how we only know 12 kilometers below, and how in the depths of this world exists a denser kingdom composed of fire and liquid rock. The inferior realm or inferno. Etymologically speaking, this is where the word inferior comes from, to refer to what is down below. Everything that is dense is piled up below when there is no other force to maintain it. Trees, for example. Its leaves are less dense than the trunk, so they are high, and its roots are even harder, denser. That's the reason for them to go down. Organic waste such as dead leaves and branches accumulate in jungles and forests, increasing its depth by up to half a centimeter per year. All of this creates sedimentary rock, clays and sands, through all the pressure and temperature processes that occur in the ecosystem. In this way, we can understand a bit how matter is being created in this world. Yes, matter is created. Energy is which transforms. I explain the Jesuit plot. If supposedly matter is neither created nor destroyed, how is it that a huge tree can grow from such a small seed? Where did all the matter that composed the trunk come from? That matter doesn't exist before. Do you see it now? How the world nature transforms light and nutrients into matter by alchemy. Transforming energy in wood, and in many more alchemical components. But then, how is it that the world grows? What is all the rock, and how can a world made of stone grow? Let us remember the hoax about the iron core. Since the compasses do not point downwards, but rather point to something magnetic, that is at ground level. Remember that, if this world were a ball of rock floating in space and rotating at 1,668 kilometers per hour, earthquakes would be much more devastating, due to the simple effect of inertia. Earthquakes can be anticipated with hours through vibrations, but not predicted in a longer lapse. There is also evidence of places where it does not tremble. Incredible sites where old locals comment on never having felt an earthquake in their life. This is the case of San Luis Potosí in Mexico, Venezuela, Canada, or Alaska. Beautiful places with great mountains and plateaus. Which is strange, since we are told that the mountains come out only at the edges of the plates due to collisions. In other words, there should be more earthquakes there instead of none. Plate tectonics has its origin in two theories that preceded it. The theory of continental drift and the theory of the expansion of the ocean floor. Both incomparable theories. The first was proposed by Alfred Wegener at the beginning of the 20th century, and was intended to explain the intriguing fact that the contours of the continents assemble together like a puzzle, and that they have common geological histories. This suggests that the continents were united in the past, forming a supercontinent called Pangaea, that in Greek language means all the lands. This was supposedly fragmented during the Permian period, originating the current continents. Also, Pangaea may derive from the worship of the god Pan, and the word Ge, which means earth. This theory of the continental drift was received with skepticism, and eventually rejected, because, according to this, the mechanism of fragmentation called polar drift could not generate the necessary forces to displace the continental masses. Also being that there is no congruent explanation about why there would be only one great supercontinent, having the rest of the supposedly globe as an almost infinite ocean. However, the ancient stories and legends do tell us about a physical division of the continents after the Great Flood. This supercontinent is not only described in the Hebrew Bible. It also appears in an older epic poem, composed in Sanskrit, the Ramayana Purana, composed by the sage Valmiki. Finding clues about this great unique continent that existed not so time ago as they claim to, called Panthalassa. Name very similar to Panji. In said epic, Panthalassa is flooded and divided by Yaksha, and then restored by Virana, the third incarnation of Vishnu, appearing as a boar, and that's when creation began. The legend of King Sagra also provides a lot of incredible information, which shows an astonishing knowledge of the geography of the aforementioned ancient Hindu world. Having a clearly separate world between land and sea, with all the continents united, all of ancient humanity being one. What tremendous catastrophe occurred that caused all the stone to be divided? How is that all the ancient stories agree with what our senses tells us? Could it be that the great catastrophe also destroyed the gigantic trees and turned them into crystalline rocks? We have already seen how water converts sediments into rocks over time. See how we currently use water to cleanly cut food and even metals. Could it be that these trees were cut in the same way? The existence of such trees is not a theory. Neither does the hypothesis that wood can turn into stone. It is enough to see places like the Park of Petrified Trees to realize that gems are even rare types of wood that, when subjected to immense pressure and temperatures, were transformed into what they are now: precious gem crystals. Here we can see two petrified samples of ancient wood. These formations can be found in all parts of the world. Most of the time they are broken and scattered. Being able to see, in its structure and composition, clear indications that in its antiquity it was wood. There is also a story, related in the Chronicles of Fawcett, which mentioned a bird whose instinct allowed it to find a very curious herb that within its alchemical juices had the virtue of breaking iron, as well as softening the hard basalt rock. In this way, we can understand how there are two theories about how ancient humans could build all those impossible megalithic stone monuments. The first one is that all those structures were carved when all the rock was wood, therefore soft. The second, that they used these herbal alchemical juices to soften the rock and thus remove it. They could even be both, and in a different period of time. Since today it is not possible to carve the rock with such precision and detail without the use of machinery. Said this, we can understand how secret this information is. Cause there is a lot of information about rocks and their different types, however there is very little about this processes, nor about the fossilization or petrification. In part because science cannot know with absolute certainty what processes are required for matter to petrify. Everything is unverifiable theory since it takes a long time, an unspecific situation for such petrifications to take place. Then, could it be that all these ancient monuments have been carved in wood, and at some point they've been petrified? The evidence analyzed suggests that it is. This is the archaeological site called Alchemy in Veracruz, Mexico. Here we can see tremendous rocks of several tons, stacked and cuted with no apparent effort. When making a more detailed observation, we can see that it has a very similar structure to a wooden beam. However, in the corner, the fracture is noticeable, revealing that it is made of rock inside. How could the ancients cut and shape these structures? We can see that even has another small stone inside. A stone of a different color. Same that was sliced at the same time and without problem. Sliced easily as butter. How did they cut them so perfectly? What's the meaning for that small stone to be inside the other one? Does that mean that the small blue rock has been cut at the same time, and so perfectly, as if it had been made with a laser? Or could it be that it was all wood since the beginning? Leave me your opinions in the comments regarding these shocking topics. Many primordial secrets hidden and forbidden to the world. Undecipherable and mystery phenomena only explicable through ancient legends. It is time to wake up and talk about this with everyone. Let's educate for the future, so children may understand the greatness of this world and how they have lied to us, so that we forget who we are and become perverted in greed and arrogance. I know that very few will understand these words. I understand that this system is very designed to make it very difficult to escape. However, every day we are more. Despite the censorship received on these platforms, we are growing. Please share. Let's help the Great Awakening as a goal of light. The future is being sold, and it's our duty to educate and be better. Most of the mystery channels only focus on sharing the darkest and most terrible, instead of concentrate on the mission. As long as we educate for the future, we will win. Get the children out of the schools. Let us not allow them to continue educating to compete and destroy everyone for mere papers. Children must be educated by their parents in virtue and love, not taken to a farm to be indoctrinated like cattle. Let's wake up and start the turn towards wisdom and light. We speak the truth, and we will be heard. You just have to wake up from the great deception. The system does not work. Time to get out. Reactive Factory Project.